Learning Objective 4. Describe a financial life cycle and explain life cycle planning. Every consumer is unique. And let's preface the life cycle discussion by stating that age is a very relative concept. There's some of us that find success in our 20s, others in our 30s, some in our 40s, and some maybe even in our 50s. But it's important to aggregate to some extent the needs of different groups. And it helps us become a little more of a specialist in those areas and helps us realize, okay, well, I've seen this 8 or 9 times, so I can assume and interpolate maybe the client the 10th time around will have similar challenges. We can start our discussion of financial planning needs in a segment we call early career, when somebody's just found an occupation. Early career typically spans mid-20s to mid-30s, and it's often an indication, well, what are the financial planning needs of somebody mid-20s to mid-30s? So I challenge you to conceptualize. Take 100,000 young adults, 100,000, and put them all in a giant college football stadium. And you're going to pull all 100,000 of those people, and what commonalities are you going to start to see? When we talk about early career life cycle, we're generally associating with the firsts. We have our first job, we have first kids, we have our first house. We get married for the first time, all right? Early career, and hopefully the only time. But early career is sort of the firsts. We often are encumbered with some sort of financial debt, some sort of student loan debt or credit card debt, mortgage debt, auto debt. So we have debt management, we have planning, growing wealth. Retirement planning is very abstract in early career. We want to encourage early career clients to put money away, but we don't have a tangible taste of retirement. We don't know what it's going to look like, but it is extremely important that we get started saving when we're young instead of waiting until we're older, as the time value of money and compounding interest does dramatic things over a 40-year period. Early career, we often have the risk areas. We have death and disability. And disability, no one ever really wants to look at. I don't know too many 25-year-olds who consider themselves at risk of disability. However, if you have a longer working time period, your risk of disability is that much greater. So we need to make sure we address the risks and the needs of that age group. If we dismiss our 100,000 young adults from a stadium, we can bring in the next 100,000, and those are going to be mid-30s to early 50s. We're going to call the second group career development. In the career development group, we normally are indicated by having found an occupation. We may still change jobs within the occupation. Debt is a little less of a consideration, but we have a little more money to use towards other financial planning needs. We typically have higher incomes. We can save at a slightly higher rate. Children may be of college age, and so it's time to not only just save, but start paying for the children's college. We have an aspect called the sandwich generation, and the sandwich generation would be an individual whose parents live in the home and have adult dependents as well. And career development is wrought with folks in the sandwich generation. We may be looking at second asset acquisitions, upsizing, downsizing a home, upsizing, downsizing cars. And income does start to pick up. Our ability to save becomes a little more relevant. Where with early career, we looked mostly at term insurance because of the affordability of the premium. And career development, perhaps there's more of a permanent need, especially when paired with education or retirement goals. Well, let's go ahead and dismiss our 35 to 50-year-olds from our college football stadium. Let's bring in another 100,000, and we're going to have 50 to early 60s. 50 to early 60s. We call this group peak accumulation. Between 50 and early 60s is generally the highest earnings for an individual. Well, the highest earnings, but also the highest demands on their financial goals. If we haven't been saving for retirement, this is the last stretch we have. We may have 10 years where we have to put as much away as we can in that peak accumulation phase. We also may have adult children who need a little help. We may have college costs moving forward. If we were underwater in our home, it's our last chance to make that good as well. So peak accumulation is characterized by the highest earnings, but the highest financial planning demands as well. Peak accumulation lends itself to pre-retirement Pre-retirement is about 3 to 6 years before planned retirement age. One of our insurance companies calls it the red zone. But it's a good point. Pre-retirement is when we start actively making investment changes. We're going to allocate the portfolio. We're going to move from a place of safety a place of risky to a place of safety, from a place of one investment to many investments. We can mitigate investment risk, interest rate risk, timing risk in the pre-retirement phase. Lastly, the fifth life cycle phase of accumulation and income is retirement. In retirement, our income generally diminishes and our spending will typically remain constant, although may flatten to some extent.